Welcome to my little talk on the Panama Canal. So the building of the canal took about 32 years for planning, design, and construction. It involved the hard work and some of the lives of about 75,000 men and women. But to actually really get into the roots of the canal, we've got to go back before they actually started building it. We'll go back to when the Europeans first discovered the Pacific Ocean, which they at the time called the South Sea. So when Balboa found that there was an ocean right across the isthmus that was so tight, so close, the Spanish king actually sent out a lot of surveyors to kind of start looking into the possibilities of a canal. Unfortunately, the canal was way beyond the Spanish king's ability to create. What he was able to create was a nice system of trails that went across Panama to get that gold, silver, gems, all those riches from the Western empires back over to Europe. The Las Cruces Trail, that's one of the trails that's still in existence today. Part of the Las Cruces Trail is the King's Bridge. It's over in Old Panama, the original site of Panama City. It's still standing today, and it's considered the oldest remaining bridge in the Americas. So on December 12th, in 1846, at Bogota, Benjamin Bidlack of Pennsylvania, acting entirely of his own initiative, signed a treaty with the government of New Granada. Now, Bidlack he didn't work for the U.S. government. He was literally just some guy who happened to be down there and found a deal that was too good to be true, so he went ahead and signed it. New Granada guaranteed to the United States the exclusive right of transit across the Isthmus of Panama upon any modes of communication that now exist or may be hereafter constructed. It was this agreement by which the Panama Railroad was made possible. Now, if you've never heard of New Granada, it used to be made up of Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, and Panama. It was one of those nations that fell together with the success of Simón Bolívar's kind of freedom rides to get everybody free from Spain. The United States was doing its best to set up a canal route, but so were several other countries. Almost 2 years after the treaty was executed between the United States and New Granada, something very significant happened in California. This would have been about 1848. Does anyone have any guesses? Gold, that's right. In January 1848, gold was discovered on the American River in California. Something like a gold rush is one of those things that just changes everything. It changes the whole cultural fabric of a society. Everybody's rushing to the west, trying to get their little piece of the pie. That's Sutter's Sawmill, where John James Marshall found gold while he was building this sawmill actually for John Sutter. I don't know if he ever actually finished that sawmill. It looks like he lost interest halfway through. So once word got out about that gold discovery, the famous 1849 gold rush to California began. This caused the huge rush of people going over to California through various routes. The most, first to your mind route would just be to easily saunter your way across the North American continent. Unfortunately, it wasn't as easy as it is today. This is before the Transcontinental Railway was actually built. So you had to go by foot, by horse, by wagon, very long, very dangerous. Your other option was to go all the way around by sea, all the way around South America, and then back up to California. Or you could do the best of both worlds, sail down from the East Coast, through the Caribbean, cross over Panama, then back up to California. Over 600,000 people made their way to California this way. Now, most people think, gold rush, yes, I'm going to go get some gold. The businessman thinks, gold rush, this could be a gold mine. So some clever Dans out in the United States decided that it would be a good idea to build a railroad across Panama to get those people who are trying to prospect gold all the way across nice and quick so they can catch that boat up to California. So this particular railroad went along the Chagres River for much of its length and crossed the Continental Divide. It was built right through the middle of what would later become the Panama Canal Zone. The railroad began its full operations in 1855. The builders of this railroad were some of the first people to realize the serious issues that you would have to overcome if you wanted to make a large-scale effort here in Panama. The source of a lot of these issues was the Chagres River. When heavy rains would come, there would be enough water flowing through the Chagres River to raise narrow sections as much as 40 feet overnight. They were pretty much working in a swamp, and on top of all that rain, they would have disease and mudslides. About 8 miles in, they actually ran out of steam with this project. They ran out of money, people were dying left and right. They pretty much almost gave up. But then a boat full of prospectors came. They had 8 miles of track laid, and this boat full of prospectors, they were all willing to pay $25 in gold a person just to ride that 8 miles of track, knowing full well that they would have to walk the rest of the way. Clearly there was a market for this, so the railroad company ended up pushing forward and becoming one of the most profitable stocks in the New York Stock Exchange. Unfortunately, very soon after they started turning a profit, the Transcontinental Railway was completed up in North America, so almost overnight they went from being one of the highest valued to one of the lowest valued stocks. About 600 to 12,000 of their workers died building this actual railroad. A lot of them ended up dying from disease. So in the inauguration of 1869 of Ulysses S. Grant as the 18th president brought new impetus to the United States canal policy. Grant's personal interest went back to July 1852, when, as an Army captain, he led the American 4th Infantry across the Isthmus of Panama en route to garrison duty in California. He lost over 150 men, women, and children to a raging cholera epidemic, and he later wrote, "The horrors of the road in the rainy season are beyond description." He sent out several survey expeditions to Central America. The surveys were conducted in Mexico, the Darien Peninsula, Nicaragua, and Panama along the railroad line. The quality of these surveys is still recognized today, and interestingly, the route of the current Panama Canal very closely is nearly identical to that proposed by this Panama survey. The guy who actually ended up pushing the button on a Panama Canal, though, was Ferdinand de Lesseps. This is a Frenchman. This is the man who spearheaded the Suez Canal in 1869. Ferdinand de Lesseps was not an engineer. He was a diplomat. He could rile people up, get people excited, make them believe in something bigger than themselves, and promptly hand over their checkbooks to him. That's what he was really good at. And that's what he did. He went to France. He tried to do the same in the United States and some other European countries. Didn't work as well as it did in France. He got tons, millions of French people to buy French canal bonds, which were backed by the French government. These were bought by tons and tons of people. So it was a private company. This wasn't a publicly funded thing. So his big thing with the Panama Canal was he wanted it to be a sea-level canal. He wanted to dig all the way down through all those mountains, all those hills, through the Continental Divide, so a ship could drive straight through, the same as he did in the Suez Canal. He clearly didn't really understand the difference between building something like this in the relatively flat deserts of Egypt versus the mountainous jungles of Panama. In time, there were 25,000 workers employed on what was going to be the largest earth-moving project in modern history. However, disaster soon struck this French effort. Rain caused problems for the canal builders, just as it had for the railroad workers. One of the big problems was mudslides, landslides. Now, usually when people think of landslides or mudslides, they think, a side of the mountain crumples off, fills up, a valley, a hole, something like that. you can't really see it very well in this picture, but the thing that these guys really had to fight against was more like mud glaciers. The entire side of the mountain would slide over, completely eliminating any work that the men had done for the last couple of months. Another thing that these guys had to fight was something that they called Chagres fever. Chagres fever was kind of a catch-all term that they used for anybody who really got sick. Really what it was yellow fever and malaria. At this point in time, they had no idea where this was coming from. Some people said it was the curse of God. Some people said that it was just unhealthy living situations. Nobody really knew what the source was, though. The biggest construction problems were in the Culebra Cut. This is an area about 8.5 miles long where a huge trench had to be cut through the mountains and hills that formed the spine of the Continental Divide. As De Lesseps continued to push for a sea level canal, it meant cutting deeper and deeper into this mountain range. As they cut deeper into the mountains, landslides were frequent and disastrous. In 1885, he finally agreed that a canal across Panama would need locks to lift boats and ships over the central mountain. Although he says he admitted this, he actually really wanted this sea level canal. So his plan was he planned on waiting for the technology to get better so he could keep digging down in the wet as the canal was working. They were making some of their money back. So if you're already spending a lot of money, you're this big French millionaire, you want to have the best kind of locks in your best canal, who are you going to hire to build the locks? Gustave Eiffel of the Eiffel Tower. Work on the locks started in January of 1888. You can see these locks. They're very different than the ones that the Americans ended up building. The American ones, they open up almost like doors. These roll back and forth. I was reading something and they were saying that they were kind of thinking about redoing the lock doors into something more like this because they think it may use less energy. In the Culebra Cut, where the average level had only been lowered 3 feet in 1886, 10 feet in 1887, and 20 feet in 1888, they had finally got down to about 235 feet by the time work was stopped. Some areas of the canal were nearly complete. The Panama Railroad was being rerouted away from the cut, and the first lock was ready to begin installation. But unfortunately, they ran out of money. De Lesseps had bled the French public dry. They just didn't have any more money to give. There was a lot of scandal, misappropriation, and the company was placed under legal receivership. By May 15, 1889, all activity on the isthmus ceased. They ended up pouring about 1.4 billion French francs into this project, which is about 287 million US dollars. The other great cost was in the lives lost. The number of deaths was between 20,000 and 22,000 people in about 8 years. Many of these people perished due to preventable diseases. Even though the French didn't complete a canal across Panama, they did move a lot of dirt. They moved about 300 million cubic yards, which is actually only about 1/10 of the total excavated to complete the canal. So the French failed.